It's good to have you back again for the third hour, and I'm excited to continue the lecture concerning the different function described concerning our assumptions and whatever we think life is all about. And remember, we're talking about different worldview assumptions that leads to a different conclusion. So many people have the same view, but they have a different conclusion by judgment, and when they decided in their final point, they assume, and then it becomes um, their final saying, and they take stand to that. And just like I was reading from the book, and I talk about uh, the protection that the woman needs, the 3 points that we talk about women, security in marriage, we talk about the home security. When people are married to more than one wife, the woman is not secure because the tendency of a husband loving one more than one, or disliking one and standing by one, or talk less of someone who deserve favor, try to play a game for their side. We also talk about the relatively routine. Now, the routine, if I may look at it in another way, could be distribution of labor, reasons that what someone expected from someone, but the restricted set of expectation is our problem. Expectation, there is a restriction, there is some limit to where they got to functions to certain achievement. But that may have in turn provide a maximum of security for newest. When you are planning to have children, the security could be there. In such a society, like I said, equality between the sexes means what? Okay? So means the provisions of different things for men and women, security for men and freedom for women. There seems to be no feelings of compulsion on the part of these scientists to give both of them the same treat. It's difficult. They therefore seek as much as possible to do away with all competitions between the sexes. Furthermore, ideally, the cultural assignments that is always there of greater freedom to men is to enable them to use the freedom to assure greater security for women. Certainly, in terms of these assumptions or their assumptions, and probably even in terms of our own assumptions, high security for women is just as valuable as more valuable than greater freedom for men. Likewise, the right of women to almost totally power over young boys and all girls may be ultimately just as valuable as the right of a right of men to wield politician or political power. Thus, the status of men and women in such a society may be equal, though their roles are utterly different from the role that we in our society feels betoken equality. For equality to them can mean equality, but truly different, whereas for us in such coming more and more than the sin. In this same vein, the molding influence of culture be indicated by charting several typical examples, of different assumptions leading to a different conclusions, which is, we can talk about the conclusions idea, which we will see the figure table. But before them, we can talk about the tribe or areas. Okay, the tribes of area in which the custom is found is given in partial, in parentheses, cultural futures. Okay, we talk about one, the cultural futures, and two, we can talk about the assumptions also, and the third one is the conclusion. Now, the cultural futures include maybe buying, youthfulness, ages, education, family, and also rapid changes. Assumption includes immodest, to go naked. Like they make an example. I'm not sure if I got it, but only if hidden something and man many others. Let's look at the chart if possible. It might not be clear. It might not be clear. It might not be clear to us, but we might still be able to understand. Okay, so let's look at it very well. If we'll draw it a little closer, is it okay for us to see? So I think this is much better now that we can see it better. So we're talking about the tribes or areas in which the customs is found in giving a parenthesis. The first thing we need to look at is what? The cultural future. This one, the cultural future. In the cultural future, we talk about first assumption. Number one, clothing. In modest to go naked by USA, one covers one's body only if hidden something. That is by the grave people in Nigeria. Now, conclusion must be, number one, is that most wear clothes even to bed. But in the other one, go naked to prove yourself worthy of whatever you are. Number three, for ornamentations, only Hagi people in Nigeria that does that. Okay? They wears on occasion only, rearranging or changing in public. So this reminds me of people from somewhere across Nigerian border and another border where we found between Niger, New Busa area in Nigeria, where people live half naked, rather, and that half naked is only tie something under it, and the up part is empty, so which it's not good. Okay, so we need to understand that is culture, and that assumption could be something of the same conclusion to whatever these are reflecting, like buying in personal economic transaction, fixing price or fixed price, no interest. Okay, in seller as a person, get it over quickly. Some people just buy things and sell it. The interest is not much for them to gain, but they do it just to finish it and know that life is going. The social, person to person, Africa, Asia, and Latin America. Social, person to person. There's a difference, the way they do things. And then that conclusion can talk about dicker over price. Establish personal relationship that takes time. Okay? Personal relationship that takes time. That is for this. Okay? Personal relationship, that takes time. So, social present person is what we just talked about. Then the desirable, which is USA, looks young, act young, cosmetics. Okay? Tolerated, to be overcome with African male mentality. Prove yourself mature, don't act young. And sometimes we haven't reached the position, but as one, we decide to take up our challenges and make whatever it is important to us when it comes to reality. Age, undesirable. Number two, desirable. That's African perspective. Now, dreaded, old people unwanted. Yes, not only US, Asian country, the old people where they have their own home, personal place to live, and people so that takes care of them. But in Africa, no, we desire to keep them with us, explain, help them, go with them, move them, whatever they do. We don't send them away. We provide for them. Except we live in a different city where they cannot survive or they cannot be able to manage the facility or technology, then we put them home and get someone to stay with them. Now, when it comes to education, primarily formal, outside home, teacher-centered perspective. You focus on the teacher, desirable situation. Now, look young, act young, cosmetic, provide young, mature, don't act young, dreaded, old people reverse. Now, formal schools hired specialists. People of such, they prefer to get specialists, someone who has that. But in Africa's context, we learn by our own. We struggle to learn. We don't care about a lesson teacher or whatever. Then and today we have. Sometimes the parents become the teachers when the other partner is at work, the other one is doing the job of teaching, and you make your child or people smart. So education is important in that primarily informal, in the home, learner center, tradition, Africa. Learn by doing, disciples, proverbs, and foxtelling. That is the way of education in Nigeria, so much that I wish and I want my children to have that idea. Sometimes you give a story and people sit down and bring out the message and also understand what he's saying and what the future implication to that. But without us having that idea, we won't be able to know where we're heading, why we're heading that areas, and how we can help certain things happen. Certain things happen to our issue. Sorry, my hand touched something. So that is it. So it becomes a problem towards what we have to do. Now, that is all about education. Now, when it comes to family, it's centered around spouses. Now, why USA? Based on the writer of our book, he felt the USA, the state of America, are that. The women's are center, everything is center, the center around spouses as the head. For the children in Africa, so when you come to center around spouses, compatibility of spouses, all important. And the children, mother-child relationship paramount. Seriously. The importance for children is their relationship between parents. Not only the mother, but even the father. Sometimes it's sour, but it becomes a problem because the child lives his life respecting and admiring and appreciating his mother, than appreciating his father. Why? Because of the attitude being put in such a situation. Rapid change, good change, progress. Now, US also is improving, changing every day. What about Korea? What about Africa? What about Nigeria? What about Cameroon? What about Philippines? What about anybody from each country will see some rapid change in their country? Progress is there. There must be a progress in our country. Encourage rapid change and innovation. That is all we need in our time. We need to encourage all those things to make sure that society could be able to move and culture could be able to withstand the technology and the things that are around. Now, threat to security. Why Africa? Because of fighting, religious conflict between the Christians, Muslim, because the terrorists, all these are little chances. But when you go to other countries, you see that the security threatening is people are walking and they're being gunned down. You wonder how come? As if there is no security. So this is also not only Africa, but the whole country, the whole world are facing that kind of threat, insecurity, whatever it happens. Conservatism value aim at stability. So this is what we have been talking about. And the assumptions are right level here, but the conclusions are well different sometimes to what the assumptions are. When it comes to a rapid change, a rapid progress, and also intention to work things the way they should go. This figure is a chart of relationship between cultural assumptions and conclusion, where we draw our conclusion, where we also finalize our states in order to understand what aspect of life it's happening. In this and every other aspect of life, we are molded somehow by our cultures to make assumptions concerning reality and to act on the basis of those assumptions to work out the details of life. Individual lives have been controlled and been seen based on what? Based on our cultural determinations. Sometimes whatever we assume becomes the due to whatever we do. Are we willing to make it happen? If it is yes, then something must be done to understand the situation of our culture. Now, the question is, are we determined by culture, or are we understood by the culture? Now, culture shows who we are. Culture dictates and reveal who we are to people. But we should not be judged or determined by the culture, or rather we should determine the culture. Let the culture be determined by us. We live by it. We form the culture. Let the culture be looked into and have overcome situations that only in God's name that those and these way of life could be possible and realistic. When they are realistic, then we have life in us and life goes forward the way it is. For sometimes now, an impression of determinism has been given by much increasing number of attitudes and actions that culture, social, and psychological forces to which we are subject to. All right. So it's been revealed that we have seen it in the aspect like this, and so certain behavior have been so impressed with the influence, okay, with the influence of those factors on our lives, that they believe everyone or everything about human life is well nigh absolutely determined. Okay? Well nigh absolutely determined. You can find all those we have been saying in page 60 to 62, if not 63. It talks about. Now, uh, life itself could be something else. And even at this moment, that our life is determined, such a brief is, however, a matter of faith based on the fact that the more we learn about culture, including society and psychology, the less scope seems to remain for free will. Liz White, in her word, who says, in dealing with the individual in relationship to culture, simply states, the individual is merely an organization of cultural forces, an element that have impinged upon him from the outside and which find their over expressions through him. The individuals is but the expression of a super biological cultural traditions in somatic form. So these also give us the idea to see what Skinner could have stated obviously concerning the view of Lisa White. Like I said, Lisa White did says merely an organization of a culture, force, an element that have impinged upon him from the outside and within. So it means man put to himself. Okay? So, and then B.F. Skinner states that autonomous man, that is, humankind with some freedom of self-determination, is device or is a device used to explain what uh, we can not explain to our reality. These kind of explanations of human activities he labeled pre-scientific and spread for the abolitions of such thinking. Okay, and we can read from the page that is we have from page 61, one part of it there that addresses what Skinner was saying, and I like to really give you something about that if you're okay. The position of White and Skinner within the behavior science are not entirely dissimilar from the theological determinism advanced by those who held to extreme view of predestination. Instead, Skinner, in support of his position, broadly states that theologians have accepted the fact that man must be predestined to do what an omniscience God knows he will do. Okay? uh, theological determinism, of course, seems God rather than culture as determining agent, a considerable improvement over a blind, unreasoning forces like culture. See? Furthermore, theological determinism is more difficult to argue against since it is based less on empirical descriptions of real life data than cultural determinism proposed to be. Now, what is it that you want to talk about? That in all that we do, the culture itself must be controlled and must be able to function because it is created by an individual. Exactly what he's saying. We tend to create something that overshadow, overcome, and overpower us, where we cannot deny the fact because it is difficult for us to practice. So sensitive enough that we do things, but ignorantly we don't even understand where and how these could be affecting our reality of life. But with studying of culture in Christianity, or Christianity in culture, we can find out that in Christianity there is a key target, a key founder, and that key is the source of everything, which is the core that created this heaven and earth, and also culture must abide with that source of Christianity. Okay, so that takes me to where it says that the advocate of both positions shares a faith in an external forces, whether God or culture, that absolutely determines the destinies of human beings. The starting point of this faith seems to differ. In the case of theological determinism, the starting assumption seems to be, since God is all powerful and can determine anything, he does determine everything. With cultural determinism, on the other hand, the reasoning seems to process from the shock of being continually continually forced to recognize that more and more of the behavior we once attributed to free will is largely explained in one's attribute or in terms of the social conditioning to which a person has been subject to. My viewers, in this aspect today, and because of our time, I want us to understand that studying Christianity, connecting with culture, improve our understanding and concept in which we are, how we were formed, and how we form the culture in which we live by it. Remember, influential people can be affected, and can help change the culture in which we come from. May I assume that we have understood what we just said, and if that is true, then be sure that our life could be safe and secure if we allow Christianity to rule over the culture where we come from. Nice having you again today, and thank you for being part of this lecture today. Wish to see you again next week. God bless you, and stay tuned and stay safe in Jesus' name. Amen.